take it away with the NFL draft, because Nick was going through Murphy is almost the surefire first rounder. Sweat is probably a bigger name, I would guess, across college football circles, but probably a more like a third rounder. But I'll let you guys take it from here.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion, Quentin. What do you think? Tavondre Sweat had the DWI. How much do you think that it affects his draft implications? Because I mean, in the past, you see guys with something like that, especially this close to the draft, you probably like lose half a round, in my opinion. But what do you think?
I mean, I think for a guy like him who had some questions about his off the field work ethic already in scouting circles, that's the type of thing that can weigh heavily, in my opinion. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if it might knock him a full round down, but it's tough to say, because that type of stuff, that's teams are going to feel more okay with it or less okay with it based on what they heard in interviews with him, right? And when they talk to him, how they feel coming out of it. And, if you're a Super Bowl contending team who runs a three-man front, you might feel a lot more okay with it than when you're an even front team who is, just hoping to make the playoffs this year at best. So there's a big variation there, and where the board is sitting at the end of the third round, he'll probably go in there if there's that right fit for the right team. If there's not, he might keep falling. It's just tough to say.
It's awesome. Yeah, so I actually did just a little research too, and I was looking at guys who ran faster than a 4.28 or something like that, right? And just how good were those guys, right? So we know that Worthy ran the 4.21, and so we seen like the guys like John Ross who came in and ran the 4.22. How do you think Worthy translates to the NFL?
So I do feel a little bit better about Worthy than I usually would when I just see the speedster who blew up the combine and went jumping up draft boards. Like, he's going to be a Raider, right? That's the way that works.
Yeah.
But I do like Worthy's route running a lot.
Yeah.
A lot more than some of those other guys. He's a lot more detailed in his cuts, in his a lot of times when you find guys that fast, they're not that agile. I feel like agile. Worthy is. So it's a bit different of an athlete. I mean, that's almost more like a guy who was also a Longhorn, like a Marquise Goodwin, or not Goodwin. I forget his name off the top of my head. But anyways, I do think he will translate a little bit better than that. I'm not sure if you're drafting him, you're probably never looking at like a number one receiver type, but you get him on a team that has a few other receivers, he is exponentially more dangerous, right? If you can start drawing up free releases for him off the line of scrimmage because you have a Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle out there with him, he becomes so dangerous. It's like, just get the ball in his hands. It doesn't really matter where it is. The guy runs a 4.21. Like, he will find space in the right offenses. So that one, it's a lot about scheme fit, but I do like what he has to offer on the tape a lot more than I do typically, or just, straight line speedsters.
Yeah, man, his route tree is amazing. I went to a ton of Texas games this year, and his route tree is just outstanding. He has really good feet too. You can tell he's a hard worker too. I could see him, if somebody in the back of the first round gets him, it just depends on what team it's going to be. If Kansas City gets him, Lord have mercy.
Andy Reid will do some fun stuff.
It's like, Lord have mercy,
That's one where like the other receivers might not matter as much because Andy Reid just pulls that type of weight,
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking the Dolphins too. Like, you saw Mike McDaniel talking with him, and I mean, if he falls past like the first round, early second round, I could easily see the Dolphins trading up and getting him. And what that guy does with Tyreek Hill, he will just do the exact same thing with Xavier Worthy. And imagine those two guys plus Jalen Waddle. Yeah, and A-Chain in the backfield. I mean, my God, the speed on that. You could run a 4x4 and they're winning. They're smoking everyone. They might fit. Yeah. They might place in the Olympics. That's how fast that thing is. So it'd be insane. So a question with you guys on AD Mitchell, and I kind of agree with it. I think he's the third most talented wide receiver in this draft. I really believe that. But I do agree with what some draft guys are saying about him taking plays off, him not, giving it his all on certain routes and even blocking. What do you think he'll turn that on in the pros, or do you think that's just something that's ingrained in him?
Personally, I think that some of that is not ingrained in him. I think some of it is a Sarkisian effect, right? I think there's a little bit of Art Briles to the offense where it's like, we know all our reads are over here. AD Mitchell's over here taking up space, eating up defenders. AD, don't waste your energy on that. We need you full go when we're looking to your side of the field. We need you to have all the gas in the tank. So take this play off. That's just my vibe that I get on tape of when I see a play where he's, lackadaisical, not even really doing anything, just knows he's taking up space. And Quinn Ewers is going right one, right two, and making a quick decision. It's like he did his job on that play was just to be in space. So I do think some of that is getting looked at as, oh, well, he's lazy. I don't care if he's lazy on that play, because when you're running 80 plays a game like you are in a spread offense like that in college, or an air raid, or however you want to describe it, I'm not sure what you'd call Sark's offense, but your guys need their juice, and he's out there every snap. He needs that juice in the tank. So I think that there is something to the offense where you can say, we feel pretty comfortable that this will translate better as far as him not taking as many plays off. But there are still concerns about it, because there are some plays where it's like, man, if you were running a little harder there, you had the ball, or, your running back was 50 yards downfield if you catch that block, that type of stuff. So a little bit concerned about it, but I'm probably someone who's willing to wave it off a little more than others, because, you say third most talented receiver in the class. I'm thinking that, right, like between him and Brian Thomas Jr., it's probably a toss-up, right? Both guys are extremely physically gifted. But AD's got the release package. AD's got the route tree. AD, if you need him to get open, he'll get open.
And the jump ball too.
Some of his advanced stats say that he won't, and it's really perplexing, right? But when you look at a guy who's played 5 college playoff games and has 5 touchdowns in those games, you start to feel like, what are we talking about here?
And yeah, to that point, I was thinking the exact same thing. Like in big games, he shows up 100%. It's just all the other little stuff. If he can just do that, he's 100% a number one at the NFL level. And I think he's a high end number one. It's just those little things. If he can just get those flipped around and turned on, I think will be great.
Yeah. Quentin, so what about, JT Sanders, man? He didn't have the best pro day. How is that going to affect his draft stock? What do you think?
Yeah, I was surprised by his pro day numbers, honestly. And like, I might have come into his athletic testing a little lower on him than the field, but now I feel like I'm higher than the field on him in some ways, because it's like people are seeing some of those numbers and just throwing it out. I'm wondering if it might have just been a bad day for the guy or something, because you watch him play. You see the basketball traits, right? You see them there. You see the ability to move in space, his ability to cut, his straight line speed. It's all really nice. And I don't think the pro day testing is a completely accurate assessment of what he is on the field, because sure, there's rawness. There's some stuff that he has a lot to learn still, but he's a gamer. He's not afraid of contact, and he's going out there and making plays. I do think a little bit in his profile, and I know you just asked about the testing, but is it okay if I jump into the profile a little bit?
Do it.
The one thing that worries me a little bit with him is playing on an offense where you had 2, maybe 3 receivers who are about to get drafted. A lot of space was able to be created for him by Sark. So I am a little bit wary about how he can create space within routes. He has the athletic ability to do it. It's just the know-how. But having that athletic ability, which, as we said with the testing, it doesn't look like he does, but I'm not buying it yet. Having to learn it, that's half the tight ends in any draft class. These guys come in the NFL. College offenses don't use their tight ends very well in general. It's if they can get them to block half decent, they're happy. Right. Like, and then just dump off passes, play action stuff where you can just get the guy open because a 19-year-old linebacker thinks he's coming to pancake him, like that type of stuff. You can just make work in college. You need a little more in the NFL. And I think it's something he should be able to do as much as you can think it without ever talking to the guy.
Yeah. One thing about him too, as well, is any team that picks up JT Sanders, they're getting a big ball of clay. This is a guy that really never played tight end until he got to Texas. He was a wide receiver in high school. a great defensive end in high school. Many thought he was going to be the savior at end for us here at Texas, right? We were mad that he went to tight end, right? But yeah, he's he's a huge baller, Clay. He's a guy that just started playing tight end. So, I think, in my opinion, any team that actually picks him up, they're going to get a huge ball of Clay. They're going to be able to mold him to what they need him to be. You already see that he's a guy that can run. His 40 is a 4.65 or something like that. He's about 250 pounds now, 245 pounds, but his frame is a lot larger. He can put on more weight too. And if he can keep that speed, man, and just figure out how to get open, I think he's going to be awesome in the league.
No, I completely agree. I think he's one of those guys. I think you see one, maybe two at every position that just plays like they're faster on the field in pads than they are in testing. And I think he's one of those guys. I think another guy like that, he's not in Texas, but I think Keon Coleman's the same way. I know he tested bad, but they're just certain guys when you watch him on the field, they're like, wow, that guy's pretty fast. Then you see him in testing. Oh, he's not that fast. And I think Jatavian Sanders is the perfect example of that. He's just too natural of an athlete for me to believe those are his testing numbers when he gets on the field. So I think he'll be great in the NFL. And I also think, for whatever reason, I think he's going to the Bengals. I fully believe that's where he's going. I think it'd be a good fit as well. They need a tight end in that offense with Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. So
that'd be awesome. How about Watts, man? What do you think about Ryan Watts?
Ryan Watts was a guy I wasn't able to get much tape on him.
Yeah.
I just took a look at him for this, but I flipped on what I had. It's a big dude.
He's big, man.
That's a big dude. I mean, he has arm length that offensive tackles are jealous of.
Yeah.
And that's saying something. You don't find corners with 34.5-inch long arms that often. So you're talking about some freaky size, some pretty nice athleticism for that size. And I thought a pretty smooth athlete, all things considered. There is some choppiness in his back pedal that I saw, a little bit stiff in the hips when he's flipping his hips in his transition. I was watching him and I had two thoughts. The first thought is, this is Dan Quinn's guy.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn is going to draft this guy.
He loved that dude. Yeah, definitely.
And my second thought was, I wonder if they're going to ask him to play safety.
It's funny you say that.
Texas did.
It's funny that you say that, because Michael Griffin, from Texas, he said, look, Watts is an NFL safety. Like he's an NFL safety. If he played safety, he's a second, third round pick basically. And he's having a long ass career at safety, so Mike Griffin said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we wanted him to come back and do that this year. And he basically said, no, I'll just go to the NFL if you're going to do that.
Oh, I didn't even realize he still had eligibility. Cause I hadn't watched him in my previous stuff until talking to you guys about coming on here. I was like, okay, I gotta go watch him now. And it was one of my first thoughts, like with his size, his straight line downhill speed is really nice, but it's some of the fine points of playing press coverage. It's like, I'm not sure he might lose a step, and then I'm not sure he can recover,
Yeah.
Well, we kind of saw that in the Washington game. He was always half a step behind the wide receivers. Like he has, I think, average cornerback athleticism, but then when you go, if he was a safety, he would be a freak athlete at safety.
Mm-hmm.
And he should definitely play there. I'm hoping he's more open-minded now that he's in the NFL, and he's like, well, making a lot more money. I want to do well for my career, because he could have come back. That was the thing talk all off season is, come back, play safety, boost your draft stock. And I thought he should have done that, but then he had the great combine. So, I mean, if he's a third round pick and he's wanting to play safety, I think, like Nino said, I think he's got a long career ahead of him if he decides to do that.
Well, and I think I read he played safety in high school. So it's not like the footwork because the footwork from corner to safety, it's not an easy transition, but he's a guy who has done it before. So you would think he knows the footwork fairly well. And that might be part of what's tying him up a little at corner, honestly, is he's going against his natural footwork at safety.
Yeah, that's interesting. How about Jonathan Brooks, man? I've been, just reading just stuff about him and saying that he's possibly like the first running back taken, but with the knee injury, what do you think?
I do think without the knee injury, I think he'd be the first running back taken. I mean, I flipped on his tape and was just like, this is the dude. This is I'd already watched a fair amount of running back in this class. And as you guys might know, it's not the strongest running back class. I was like, this guy would be the guy who's everyone's talking about at running back, if not for that knee injury. He's fast, he's big, he's strong, he can bowl you over, and probably not the most physical runner, but he has the size to bowl you over, and I don't think he's not shying away from contact. And then just the short area, like lateral bursts at his size, I think are pretty special. And it's tough to say with a torn ACL, but I feel like the last, I don't know, 5-10 years, torn ACLs haven't had that huge an impact on guys losing much athleticism, which is something that makes it kind of weird to me that he would fall that much from that injury. But it seems like he has fallen a little bit down the board. And also some of it is always just draft fatigue. This guy was the RB1 when it all started. By now, he hasn't done any testing. I think you see it at multiple positions. Guys who didn't test, they tend to fall down the board a little. And then people might be surprised on draft day when they go where they go.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always comped him to like a Le'Veon Bell.
That's
very
exactly
patient.
what I was going to say.
Yeah, man. He's so patient, man. It's like he's so patient. He kind of looks around for the hole and then he hits it, man. And then after that, he's off to the races. He's strong, great vision. And it just shows a lot about him, because I think Texas fans, we saw him for 2 years previously, and he had to wait his time behind Bijan and Roshan, right? And look, he waited his time, and once he got his time to shine, he shined, man. He shined.
I was one of the first people 2 years ago on this channel, Mark. I don't know if you remember. I said this guy's going to put up better stats in his 1 year whenever he gets it than Bijan Robinson, and I didn't say he was a better player. I said he's going to be playing a better system with a better offensive line, and he's a hell of a player, and that is why. And I said that. I was telling people, we'll be fine. Jonathan Brooks got us. Jonathan Brooks got us, and he had us. He's phenomenal. I love that guy. I love the way he runs. And, you killed it with the Le'Veon Bell. That's something I've been saying as well. He's smooth going through the hole. Like, he glides. He's not, like, super fast, but he just glides as he runs, and he's so fun to watch.
He's so good, man. I tell you what, I took a lot of hell too, because I said the same thing, man. I said, look, Texas running game is going to be just as good, if not better, this year. And people gave me hell. We're losing Bijan. We're losing Roshan. Like, come on, man. I'm like, their offensive line is going to be light years better, and Jonathan Brooks is no slouch. You know what I'm saying? He's not Bijan, of course. There's not many like Bijan. Bijan's a different animal, right? He's just different. But look, our line was light years better than anything we had 2 years ago, man. So to have that coupled with Brooks, and then you're starting to see the factory now too, so I think this is going to kind of jump Texas with the RBU discussion, right? Like Jonathan Brooks will get drafted this year. And then in, 2 years from now, you're going to be looking at a guy like Baxter, who will be a first or second round pick, that size and speed combination. Jaden Blue, who's running a high 4.2, low 4.3 as well, that people, always forget about because he didn't play his senior year. He was the number one running back in the country, folks, when he came out of high school, right? And so you got him. You see what he's doing now. And so it's just like Texas is starting to stack them. Sark's starting to get the guys he wants. He had some great talent, that was from the previous staffs, and you're seeing him just compound on that with the talent that, he has too now. So.
Yeah, and I think we have 5 guys. Honestly, all 5 of them can play in the NFL. Like, man, Christian Clark and Jared.
Christian Clark.
Yeah.
My God, Christian Clark.
Trey Wisner is going to get carries this year, and he's going to look good when he gets the carries. So
Trey's a beast. Trey's a beast. Yeah.
If Jaden Blue doesn't go to the league after this year, one of them is probably going to transfer. So Jaden, have a fantastic year and make yourself a lot of money. And I'm a big fan because I think he's the best running back in the room personally, but it's exciting. It really is. We've started to create a factory at certain positions. Are we all the way there on every position? No, but we're closer than we have been since the Mac Brown era.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Hey, Quentin, how about this one, man? Christian Jones. We've seen him, kind of mature from being a guy that Texas fans probably didn't even want to see the field, and then, he comes in and Kyle Flood with his development. And we're seeing Christian Jones might be a top 150 pick, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've got him top 120 on my board. I mean, I really liked what I saw from Christian Jones. I do, and I mean, I'm a trench guy at heart. Like, O-line, D-line is what I really enjoy watching. And Christian Jones, I mean, I just saw big, and Grant, I didn't pay a lot of attention to him prior to this past year because this was the year he entered the draft. So that's where I watched a bunch of tape on him. And I saw a big, strong dude who you couldn't go through. Long arms, might have some hip tightness. Like he might not be able to match the best speed on the corner. But I saw a guy that at the NFL level, I think you can have on the field and feel okay about. Like you can play him and not feel like you're going to have a liability there, because he has one weakness and the rest all feels pretty good to me. Just those tight hips. So you can cover that up. You can give him tight end help. You can give him chip help. You can find ways around that when a guy has a strong anchor like that and good length like that to be able to counter, to be able to get back inside, protect against inside moves. I think that there is a lot of good stuff to work with Christian Jones. And I only felt more confident in that after going down to the Senior Bowl practices and watching him just do pretty darn well all 3 days of practices out there against, the best guys in the draft.
Yeah, and he has good feet too. Like a lot of people don't know that he was a soccer player in high school, right? Yeah. And so he has really good feet, man, for a big guy, very nimble. It's one of my favorite players, man, is Jordan Whittington. And I think him not being able to, taking the drills at the combine, I think that, hurt him. But, how do you feel, him going to the league and being a slide in, and what round does he kind of project at?
I think he's looking around 6th, 7th round really right now. And really the reason why I think that he does get drafted is because he's got special teams experience. Mm-hmm. He is going to make a team on his special teams ability. And then from there, it's about him taking advantage of his opportunities. He seems like a guy who's going to, lives and breathes football, and he's going to do everything he has to keep playing it. So getting that ace special teams role is going to be big for him, because then he can just work on getting better and getting better and getting better, and then develop into a role where I think a big slot role is where he's going to fit in the NFL eventually, once he works his way into the rotation there and gets his snaps to prove himself on Sundays. I think that he's the kind of guy who, once he gets those snaps, he might not look back, because he's a gamer. I mean, I don't think he's the best separator out there. I think a lot of his production did come on, from what I saw, screens and underneath routes and stuff, where it's like you're relying on some of the bigger name receivers to really create these openings and these bubbles, and he's the guy who can take advantage of it. But you know what? That happens in the NFL too. So I think that he's a guy who could come in a big slot role, body some smaller slot cornerbacks, and be able to eat up underneath space with routes with a real yak threat, because he's fast. He might not be the fastest, but his ability to go from 0 to 60 is really impressive. When he gets the ball and he turns up field, it's really impressive how fast he's getting 10, 15 yards.
Yeah, and I think what you said, the gamer and special teams, if Bill Belichick was still coaching, he screams Patriot to me. And just because he's not coaching, I think the Ravens are a perfect fit with Harbaugh's background and special teams. He would absolutely love someone like that. And Keelan Robinson, too. I think Keelan Robinson is one of those guys, if he just does what he does in college in the NFL, special teams-wise, he's a guy that will play a decade long in the NFL, just special teams-wise. So where do you have him on your big board getting drafted at all, or do you think he's going to go undrafted?
I don't have a round grade on him. I've just watched him put some notes down. I'm not sure that he gets drafted, but wherever he ends up, it'll be interesting, because, he's only played 368 snaps in his college career. It's really hard to get drafted when your resume is that short, right? There's very little proof on tape. What the proof there was, I thought he had some really nice speed to the corner, nice one-cut runner. Like when he hits the gas, he flies through holes, right? And he seemed like a capable receiver out of the backfield. Like, they were asking him to do a fair amount in the receiving game, which in college, if you're asking the running backs to do anything in the receiving game, that guy's probably a pretty solid receiver, because it doesn't really happen. It's kind of frustrating from a scouting standpoint, because you can't actually see what kind of routes most of these guys can run or anything, because everything's pretty watered down. But with that very limited snap count, I say it'll be interesting wherever he goes, because he has extensive special teams experience, right? Has played every special teams unit. I don't think he returned punts. That's the only area where it's kind of, you wish that you saw that, because he did return kicks and he has the speed to be a threat there. But he was on punt cover units, he was on kick cover units, everything. So he has a chance to just jump on a roster and stick there, because no one people laugh about special teams, but you need guys. you need someone who can play there, right?
Well,
And
in the
someone who's
NFL, the
experienced.
margin's so small too. Like that's the difference in games in the NFL. In college, it may not be, but in the NFL, it 100% is. You see games won and lost all the time, at least a couple times a Sunday on special teams. And he blocked, I think, like 5 or 6 punts at Texas. So he has the capability. He was so close on so many other ones. He's probably one of the best special teams players I've ever seen. Now, like he's that good. That's why I think he can just spend all his time at special teams and he can be like a Matthew Slater in the NFL special teams. That guy made $50 million playing special teams for about 15 years.
Yeah, and I do think he has some upside as a runner. I mean, he gets in the right committee and he becomes their one cut runner, their guy who they want when they're going to run power schemes where they just open this gap and say, hey, you go. I think he can do that pretty well. So I do think he has a chance in the league. I'm just not sure if he's actually going to get the chance to be drafted because of that lack of experience on the offense.
That's awesome. I think that's all the players, right?
The only one I can think of, I guess, is Jalen Ford.
Jalen Ford.
Like, he's been all over the map. I've seen like 3rd round, I've seen 6th round, I've seen like earlier on I saw undrafted, but that's kind of gone to the wayside. So where do you have him at?
I've got a 5th to 6th round grade on him. I think that he lacks some size to be a stack linebacker. Like you don't want him taking on blocks, but there's some scheme specificity to his game because he is a really nice player for a downhill attacking defense, right? You don't want him sitting on his heels thinking about coverage. You want him going downhill into the running lanes because he can really cause some chaos there with his athleticism. And he does have the strength to play through blocks. I just don't think you want him doing it on his heels. You want him doing it moving forward because he is a much more natural football player moving forward than he is moving backwards. And I'm not sure you can coach that moving backwards into guys as much as you can coach a guy to move forward within the defense. And I don't love his coverage. So you're talking about a thumper. You're talking about like a 3-4 Mike, I think, something like that, where you can afford to be a little more undersized, but you're going downhill. You're going in attack mode. And I do think he offers special teams ability because of that too. And I didn't remember to look up his special team snap counts, but he seems like a guy who would really excel on the new kickoff rules where you're going forward, you're trying to break through blockers and close down run lanes. I think that's something that he can really do well and be an asset to in the new kick return rules.
Yeah, I agree. I think Benda and Ford were both really good getting downhill, and I'm surprised more teams didn't try to attack us with their running backs out of the backfield, like going down the sidelines. Like Alabama did try the one time, but Milroe couldn't plead it to McClellan when they tested Benda. So he definitely needs to work on that, but I agree.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, in the previous year, he made a bunch of plays. I mean, he was intercepting balls like crazy. So there's the comment down there. So I don't know if he plateaued last year. I just think the previous year, it was kind of like it was an all Big 12 kind of year. It's an All-American year, right? So he was 2nd team All-American, I think, that year. So it's kind of hard to duplicate those years, especially at that position. So he was around the ball a lot, but last year, I wouldn't say he wasn't. It was just some of those balls didn't actually fall his way, right? So look, I'm with you. I think he's going to be a hell of a special teams guy too as well. But if he gets with the right team that just thumps, like you say, man, he'll be pretty good.
This is our Texas relaunch party. We appreciate Nick being here from Nino's Corner. We appreciate Quentin. And Quentin, it's, let me get this straight, On Tap Sports Net, correct?
Yes, correct.
And it's also Budkiss Stats on YouTube.
Yeah,
so
that was the handle. Go ahead.
If Quentin will forgive me, would love to have you back to talk some other teams' draft selections here in the next, we don't have too much time, in the next week or 10 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know time and day, and I'll as long as I'm not already calendared up, I'd love to.
Awesome.
And since you're no longer in the Big 12, or we're no longer in the Big 12 anymore, good luck to your Big 12 season this year.
Yeah, good luck in the SEC, guys.
It's gonna be rough, man. It'll be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Is everyone in the Big 12 just gonna finish 6-6?
Yeah. The one who gets to 7, they're going to take it.
Honestly, I think the league's going to be a lot of fun next year. It's going to be a lot of fun next year. And so, I'm excited, just to see just college football just, period dot. But, the SEC bringing in Texas and, bringing in, the folks from up north, I won't say their name. And then this a Big 12 bringing in all those teams, man, getting the Colorados and everybody to come into as well. It's going to be very interesting. A lot of odds going to be in the Big 12 next year.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 might be the most fun conference to watch. I'm not going to say it's going to be the best football, but I think it might be the most fun to watch because any given Saturday, I could see the worst team in that league beating the best team in that league. Whereas the SEC, Vanderbilt's not going to beat whoever the top dog in the SEC ends up being.
Yeah, I think the new Big 12 is going to be like the Pac-12. You know how the Pac-12 used to be, where like your Washington States would come out and and they would go 5-0, right? And and they would beat some teams, and then they probably lose 4 or 5 games in a row, but they were exciting, right? Like last year they had that with Cam Ward. Your Washington State, your Oregon States, and things of that nature. So, I'll be watching the Big 12. I have a cousin that actually plays for Colorado, so I'll be watching every Colorado game. But that's hopefully that's it for me. But definitely, man, it's going to be a very fun league. So, I'll be interested.
Cool. Quentin, we appreciate you stopping by, man. And everybody join Quentin's work there at ontapsportsnet.com and also Budkiss Stats on YouTube. It's easy to find. It's Budkiss Stats, one word. I found it like that, so you can find it right here. Check out the draft analysis right there.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.
Cool. Thank you, Quentin.